Closing is always easy when you're in Cardone U. We role play with Grant Cardone's team. They know just what to do. They're always there to support us. We couldn't ask for more. On our way in the right direction, we found what we're looking for. In FLC, in FLC. Closing is better with appointment setters. You'd better believe we're not a team but a family. We work together in harmony. We are devoted, on that you can quote me, in FLC.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the FLC Hangout, where your freedom lifestyle begins. Today I am so excited to say we have another very special guest, Sebastian, with us to share his knowledge, what he knows. So yes, thank you so much for being here. We are very excited. And what we're going to be talking about today is, I feel like, not talked about enough in business. It is the mental health side and how that will relate to your physical health and all that good stuff, all that stuff for building a foundation. So yeah, I think let's get straight into it. So before we start, make sure you follow our Instagrams. I'll put them here, here, and here. And without further ado, Misty, over to you.
Hi, Sebastian. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's so awesome to meet you and have you on here. We hear a lot of really good stuff about you. Apparently, you know everything. Like, major guru in the house. Let's go.
So, first of all, I would like to say, well, I feel very honored, to be on your podcast. Well, thank you all so much for inviting me, and I'm sure we'll discuss plenty of things that for your listeners, for both business owners and not for business owners. Because, if we're talking about mental health, this affects each and every person along with their life journey. And it is important to understand that we are with our minds for the rest of our lives. So if we understand how the intrinsic details of our mind works, then we can be more performant. We can be kinder to ourselves. And so first of all, I would like to give a bit of background. So I'm not just a random stranger, random Joe from the street. It's very important to know where that knowledge comes from. So I had quite an unusual journey because I have expertise in multiple different fields. So my main expertise is within the technology sector. So I do know a lot about it. I've been there for the past 12 years. I know how the world of technology changes, but also I had trained in neuro-linguistic programming. I've trained in cognitive behavior hypnotherapy. And I also had a very unusual spiritual journey. So putting this all together, I have multiple models that can explain how we can manage our minds better, how we can deal with anxiety and also the ever-changing world. So this is where I would like to share some of the insights, some of the research that I had been conducting for God knows how many years. Yes, but these will go on, ask more specific questions, also questions specific to your audience. So, for example, when it comes with also mental health, there needs to be differentiation. Mental health of men is very different than mental health of women because the challenges of those two genders are very different. And also our brains are different, very, very different. And the way that a woman can perceive something might be very different, well, than a man can well see things. Well, for example, as men, we tend to see things more in a tunnel kind of way. Well, so for example, we're very good at focusing on something, but that also will depends on the neurological spectrum well, that the person will has. But I'll let you also speak because I don't want to take all the time and just go into a tangent. Well, so ask questions or share your views as well.
Absolutely. It's an amazing, everything you said is so true. And thank you for giving us that background as well. I think it's really helpful for people to know what the person knows. We need to know what you know to be able to understand. So it all works in a wonderful circle. I do believe that Misty had a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I like how you brought up the fact that men's brains and men's mental health and women's mental health are separate. We're individuals and we can't expect one thing to just work for everybody, right? We're not cookie cutter people.
No, and also we have to be also aware of another spectrum because, well, it's not only men and women. Also, for example, on neurodivergent spectrum, well, the person can be well. So, for example, you could be a woman, a very successful woman, a very successful businesswoman with ADHD. And you could be a very successful businesswoman with autism, being on the autistic spectrum. And many people think, this is a disadvantage, being, on those neurodivergent spectrums is a disadvantage. Well, but let's also remind ourselves that the world becomes more and more complex. It's not a coincidence. Well, then we see a very vibrant minds were appearing right now in this vibrant world space. And the reason why is evolution and adaptability. So, for example, if you have ADHD, it will be easy for you to multitask, to actually think about multiple things at the same time. However, at the same time, focusing on one thing is going to be extremely, extremely hard. And the opposite is also true. If you are a very successful businessman or businesswoman who appears introverted, it might be that you are, for example, on autistic spectrum, and you're very good at focusing on just one thing, and you do not like any distractions, and you do not like context switching. And that is actually perfectly fine. The important part is when we try to put people in different pigeonholes, and they do not fit into those pigeonholes, because their brains are very different. And when we recognize that it's if we understand our brains and how it works, how also it works linguistically, then it becomes a superpower. Then, for example, in many schools, they see, for example, people on autistic spectrum or ADHD spectrum as a challenge. They don't have specific tools for how to deal with them. But in reality, if those minds are properly trained and they also take themselves throughout the journey of understanding, they can bring different fields together. They can look through multiple models and multiple different lenses and not just have one model of explanation. And I think in today's world, it's important to recognize that while some things we cannot change, we can definitely understand ourselves. And the beauty of understanding ourselves is that we can understand other people so much more. We can be kinder to one another. We can function better as society itself.
Yeah, definitely. So how can mental and physical health practices such as meditation and exercise positively impact one's business strategy and decision making?
Well, meditation is not only one thing, because well, meditation is actually just one way how you can program yourself. Now we think about well programmers well as just very geeky well nerds that will put well some code on the computer.
We like geeks and nerds.
Yeah. But in reality, well, the whole field of programming well is actually based on that we are always being programmed by our environment itself. And also, if you think about it, when you look at Windows or Apple, there's operating system, and you install language on that or languages on that for operating system, which allows it well to also perform. You have also constant updates for that operating system. And if you take that analogy and you start consciously choosing well and also asking yourself a very valid question, how do I want to program myself to the betterment of both myself, the people that I care about, society, and also the world as a whole? Knowing well that those questions have already appeared throughout humanity from ancient times, well, from times of Aristotle and Socrates. And the same questions are valid in every and each generation. So if you understand well that you have an absolute power to choose your environment and how you want to be programmed, both by people around you, or for example, by your employees, or by setting boundaries. We don't will talk about the importance of setting boundaries, well, but it is well very important well to set those. And again, when it comes to meditation, our brain is a perpetual learning quantum supercomputer.
Yeah.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
So we always learn. If, for example, you scan your brain today and you're going to scan your brain in 2 weeks' time, it's not going to be the same brain because your neural networks are constantly readjusting itself because you're always exposed to information. And that's why also how you acquire that information and the quality of the information is very important. So I'm absolutely, when it comes to meditation and also hypnosis, self-hypnosis and other forms of meditation or audiobooks, I think they're very beneficial because this is how you install or update your operating system, per se. Now, how does exercise come into conjunction of it? We cannot talk about mental health without realizing that actually physical exercise is an absolute must on mental health. And the question is why? What's the link? Is it only, that you sweat yourself? Well, no. When you go to the gym, what happens in the gym, what happens in your brain is you produce a very specific molecule called BDNF. BDNF stands for brain-derived neurotropic factor. And this is, if you remember nothing else from today's conversation, this is the one single thing I would like you to focus on. Because
so just really quick. So guys, what he's saying is get your pencils, get your paper, write this stuff down because you really need to know it. It's very important. You need to know this stuff because when you're in business, your mental and physical health, like he's saying, is very, very important. You want to stay healthy in all aspects in order to be successful. I am sorry, Sebastian, for interrupting you. Please continue.
No problem. Health is the foundation. But how does physical exercise relate to actually business outcomes? So let me explain. When you exercise, what you do, you trigger your body to produce a couple of different biochemical molecules. One of them is nitric oxide. So, for example, when you laugh and you feel good, you produce a lot of nitric oxide. Your cells are actually in a constant communication, and the language that they speak is biochemical. And when you feel good, it's because they are very efficiently communicating with each other. And this is that molecule is called nitric oxide. But even more important than that, it's called BDNF. In the children, the levels of BDNF are 10 times greater than adults. BDNF is a molecule that tells your brain to grow, expand, and become more complex. So what happens if you don't provide that kind of stimuli? Your brain slowly deteriorates. You lose cognition, and your ability to think slows down. And it's not because you're aging. It's not because you're getting older. It's because brain, from the evolutionary perspective, was there for movement coordination. So if you do exercises or practices that deal with movement coordination, then that will also trigger increase in BDNF levels. And that will also increase in your ability to become sharper and sharper and even more sharper and even more sharper than that. So what are some of the things that you can do? Well, obviously, going to the gym. But not going to the gym just to exercise so you can focus on exercise. Because once you go through those first sessions, it's pretty much automatic. Then you can program yourself using the Best Business podcast, the things that will make you more competitive in business and in life. So then the gym doesn't become just a place where you have to spend time to exercise. The gym is then the best place for your brain to expand and be programmed by the things that will make you more efficient and more competitive. What else? Playing a musical instrument. When you learn how to play a guitar or how to play a piano or any other musical instrument, you learn how to coordinate your neurons. You learn how to coordinate your neural networks. So they actually are, if they're better at communicating, that means you're better at emotional management. Because let's say that something happens, something bad happens. And of course, you're emotionally affected. Now, the question is, then how can you go through fast series of changing your emotions? And the fastest way that I found is playing a musical instrument. I do have a piano right now. I'm not gonna play it. But I would really recommend to start. You don't actually need to have a teacher to learn how to play either guitar or piano. You could have an application on iPad that will teach you how to position your hands, and then second, and then how to create more complexity. And this will weave into quality of thinking. Exactly. So I think I took a bit more time for explaining some of the things. The mental health and also the brain itself and how it works is one of those topics where we could spend hours and hours and hours just talking about the beauty and the vibrance of that fundamental structure that allows us to perceive through so many different lenses, and also to gain greater understanding of life, universe, and the world that we're living in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. It's so beautiful, and I've learned a lot myself just by listening to you. So I know the viewers are going to really benefit from this. So thank you. And maybe I should go buy a piano, is what I'm hearing.
Go for it. I'll send you all the details. Well, Yamaha 515, well, it's a very good one. It does will have weighted will keys. Well, so it's
Oh,
pleasure. The moment when you put your hand on one key and you feel those vibrations going through your body, through your heart, through your mind, and it's a different kind of feeling. And then you can share that energy with others. Well, because if you have melody inside yourself playing constantly wherever you go, whenever you're going to a business meeting, it makes people feel good. Because, well, then, you're not dependent on energy of others. Suddenly, you're a generator. You're a generator of very positive, constructive energy. And that affects people. And with the world being more and more challenging, if you bring harmony wherever you go with the balanced perspective and the melody of your mind, then you're going to do well. You're going to have a very positive impact on every and each person that comes on your journey.
absolutely. So, so true. And I love hearing this because a lot of what you're saying, like the message, we really believe in FLC too. If you want to really have a successful area of your life, you need to be successful in all areas of your life, or work at all levels, all areas even. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And backtracking a little bit, I love how you mentioned that you can be a man in business, a woman in business, a woman with ADHD, a man with anything, and be in business. How important do you feel like, I guess this question is in two parts. How important do you think it is to really understand yourself in business so that you can really work to your strengths? And how would you encourage someone to do that and find themselves, basically?
Well, I'll give you a situation. Well, let's say that you're negotiating a deal and you don't understand your emotions and you become overreactive. Well, if, for example, there's going to be a counter offer, now it's going to work against you because you're letting your emotions to dictate the level of sharpness of your mind. And of course, the person who has more awareness, emotional awareness in any kind of negotiation has an advantage. And not only because of their understanding of themselves, it's actually even more fundamental than that. When you become emotional, what happens in your brain is that the flow of oxygen, your bloodstream, goes more into this part of your brain, which is called reptilian brain. And this is a very primitive structure. It has limited computing power. It is fight or flight, and we've all experienced that at different parts of our lives. When we are discussing concepts and ideas right now, we're not using our reptilian brain at all. We're using our frontal lobe, which is in here. This is where humanity lives. And if we are more human to one another, we can also understand different perspectives. We can also put ourselves in the shoes of the opposing party, or we can potentially bring up better deals, better win-win situations. However, if you do not have control, emotional control over yourself, it's going to be harder because you then are very susceptible for manipulation, for emotional manipulation. And you don't know in what kind of business situations or even life situations. We're not even talking about business, but we're talking also about life in general. And that makes you a vulnerable target. And I think it's far better to understand how your thought processes work, and also how to upgrade those thought processes. This is not something that can be achieved in a day, but right now we do have marvelous tools in both cognitive therapies and behavior therapies, and also in hypnotherapies. So before, if, for example, you would sit down with Sigmund Freud, you would spend 10 years talking about the root of your problem, and you would not solve the problem. Now, fortunately, humanity evolved from those periods of medieval perspectives. So right now, you see a lot of very trained, very knowledgeable therapists, which simply has tools. And very often, you don't need to know what is the core of the problem. You want to solve a very specific issue in your life. It might be dealing with anxiety. It also might be dealing with grief. Also trauma. Now, this is, I've lived in UK for a very long period of time. And one thing that you notice, and especially when you go through training as a therapist, is that many people had gone through trauma and they had not healed, they had not processed. And while they function, you can only sweep so much dust under the rug. There comes a point where you trip over that rug. So one thing I would definitely recommend, not only business owners, but also any person who listens to this podcast, is to find answers and continue question what are better ways to understand yourself. Because by understanding yourself, there will come a point where there will be some person in your life or in your network where they will desperately need both coolness of your mind and understanding, and your ability to actually sit down with them and also tell them that it's going to be all right. And this, whatever happens in their life, is going to eventually make them stronger. Pain, if processed properly, same as trauma, can lead to tremendous amount of growth, evolution, understanding. It's one of those things where life gives you opportunities. And if you reject those opportunities, it's going to come back again. Pain is one of those things, including emotional pain. And people can rewire themselves regardless of whatever hardships, whatever childhoods that they had in their lives, and towards becoming something more, becoming an encapsulation of an idea of excellence, so that they can pass on that understanding towards others.
Yeah, I've being a caregiver, I love what you're saying, and I can really resonate with a lot of that, because being a caregiver, I've worked with clients who have a lot of trauma. I mean, a lot of trauma. And being able to, like you were saying, somebody coming to you and needing all of your mental health and, being able, all of you to be able to give to them, to be able to listen to them and help out or whatever. I've had, like I said, I've had people that have had a lot of that trauma and they've come to me, and so being able to be mentally healthy in myself and being able to say, okay, this is what, and give advice and kind of help work through that. I can really resonate with that. I don't know if I'm hitting everything that you're saying. Like I said, I'm kind of foggy today, but I am so into this.
Hours. This is
Yes,
one of those topics, where
it's endless.
any therapy that you could talk about. Well, any person that went on your journey, and as you said, well, they went through something
Mhm.
horrible. They went through trauma, their life was shattered, and suddenly they have to figure out, well, how to put those pieces together. And I can tell you right now that you can not only put those pieces together, you could create a beautiful statue within yourself. You can rebuild yourself over and over and becoming stronger because of the experiences that you personally had. So and unfortunately, I won't be able to meet personally each and every one of your listeners. Well, but whoever is listening to this podcast, and you've been through a lot, life have given you tough cards, be it childhood relationships or business or anything that had impacted your mental health. You can go through it. You can become something more, and do not stop. If you cannot, there is a beautiful phrase that I remember. If you cannot run, walk. If you cannot walk, crawl. And if you cannot crawl, just make that single step. And
Wiggle,
wiggle, wiggle. And
wiggle.
over
You're a
time,
worm, wiggle.
it does make a difference because, well, then
Yes.
you compound, if you can wiggle just a little bit, perhaps you can crawl. And if you can crawl, because you can walk again. And if you can walk again, you can run to places and experiences where you could be proud of yourself, of the person that you are capable of becoming.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
like we
I
say
love
here in the FLC. It's like we say here in the FLC, every moment, every small movement is momentum forward. So and it always compounds, like you said. So yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Did you have another question, Josie? Or do you want me to ask?
I'm so wrapped up in this topic, and like you said, we could talk for so long
Yeah.
about this, and this might even need to be another part because I also no, absolutely, I also feel like it would be really beneficial to get our viewers' questions as well, and their opinions, and things are probably popping up in everyone's heads, and it's like, I don't know, people probably have questions because I know I do. So yeah, if anyone does have questions about this, comment them below. Also check out Sebastian Facebook, on Instagram. So yeah, I did want to quickly say that. I do want to ask, how would you define success in terms of mental health and physical health and in business? Is there a certain point where you can say,
How about
oh, I
how about not making it into something that we can put in a box because
yeah,
it is a verb, it is a journey, it doesn't stop. So how do it's not success, it's the journey of excellence. So, and the journey of excellence will requires to start. And the only person that you compare yourself with, well, is the person from yesterday. So, and also,
Love that.
so this is where you stop trying to impress people, and you realize, well, I want to achieve excellence in my health, which includes physical health, my mental health, and in many other areas. And I don't have to figure it out straight away. But what is important is to consciously choose the journey. So what would a journey of health mean? It would mean understanding nutrition. So for example, and also nutrition for men is very different than nutrition for women, simply well because of our hormonal and endocrine system. So the first path would be understanding, well, how does your endocrine system work? For example, if, I am a man and the quality of how I look and also the quality of life will be heavily dependent on the levels of testosterone in my bloodstream at sufficient levels. And this is where you have a lot of misinformation in that area. Well, for example, cholesterol is bad for you. It is true if you do not exercise. But cholesterol is absolutely essential to build testosterone levels. For example, eggs have very good, high quality cholesterol. So if you're doing heavy lifts and you exercise regularly, you actually do need cholesterol. You cannot build muscles if you do not provide sufficient levels of cholesterol. Also, how you hydrating yourself? Do you filter your water? Do you get enough good oils in your diet? So those are all the foundations. I mean, there's so much more, like, and we're, so the first stage, is the body, optimizing, the body itself, but there's also very specific compounds that are absolutely essential for your brain to function effectively and efficiently. So if you are in business and you don't provide those compounds to your brain, then you experience things like brain fog. We've all experienced that. Now, we think, it's normal. Well, I tell you right now, it is not. It's a sign of gradual neural degradation of your neural system. However, this is also where, if you know that, you can then set out the things for how to neuroregenerate your brain. And this is the beauty of reversing the aging itself. So then, you have a choice. Like, how do you want to look like in your old age? Well, do you want to be the sharpest possible person with a vibrant mind, and being very successful, businesswoman or businesswoman, that haven't lost the ability to think? Or will you let your mind and brain to slowly deteriorate in time? And if you don't have the right information, then that's the path that most people, unfortunately, will take. Not because they want to, it's because they simply don't know. But if you know, then you can choose. You can choose a different journey. Instead of every year you look in the mirror, and think, I'm looking older. Every year you might look better. How about that for an idea? It's
let's go.
Every year, building, having a sharper brain, because the alternative is not very welcoming.
No, not at all. Yeah, I completely agree. Sorry, Misty, I know you're about to wrap up, but I'm so glad that you said that at the beginning, that you said it's a journey, because that's so important. And everyone listening, write that down. It's business and success is a journey. You're never gonna stop at a certain point. It's a journey, and you'll always be on that journey for the rest of your life. But that's exciting. It shouldn't be scary. It shouldn't be daunting. That's so exciting. So yeah, thank you.
I don't know about you
Sebastian,
guys.
so much.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna have to rewatch this a couple more times, because that was so impactful, so powerful and amazing. Thank you, Sebastian. You are one incredible man.
I'm more than happy. For me, it was trial and error. And when I say trial and error, it was going to different countries, It was also a very interesting spiritual journey, a very interesting scientific journey, going through thousands of research papers, because I simply didn't know. And I was not comfortable, with the level of information that I have. And no one around me knew as well. So I look around, left, right, and center, and no one has those answers. So I decided, right, let me do the research itself. And it led me to some remarkable things. And right now, I feel happier than ever before. My anxiety is nearly non-existent, but also the computational power of my mind is levels apart from what I had in the past. And yeah, I'm more than happy to share, some of all the practices. Definitely going to the gym and listening to podcasts is the cheapest way to solve your health problems. And especially if you're a business and you have to also be competitive and know how the world is changing, gym is the best place where you can have all that time for yourself, detached from anything else, but also because you're exercising and you're producing a lot of beta and alpha and endorphins, the information that you listen sticks and becomes part of you. So you find the best environment for you to improve as a human being, and that could be from business perspective, that could be from health perspective, that could be from a wealth perspective, network. Pick and choose your cherry, or all of the cherries at the same time.
Wow, thank you so much, Sebastian. That's incredible. Now I'm going to kick my butt even more because I got to get back to the gym.
The gym is actually the gym for your brain, because
I love it.
Because you go to the gym, you stimulate your brain to produce BDNF molecule, and BDNF then stimulates your neurons to go, grow, and expand. So paradoxically, going to the gym is a good way to reduce the risk of dementia, of Alzheimer's disease, because you're producing new neurons. And depression actually is also associated with your neurons dying at a faster rate than you're producing those neurons. So when you invent that process and you provide the perfect biochemical environment in your body to produce that BDNF protein, and then the chances of you being depressed are greatly reduced, simply because you're just producing new neurons. If you look at children, it's very hard to see them depressed. I have a nephew, and he has endless amount of energy. My sister looks like a zombie sometimes when trying
to keep up.
Yeah, trying to keep up. And she cannot, because his brain is expanding at such a high velocity that it's impossible for him to be depressed. And so if you want to have a happier life, the easiest medicine that I found is go to the gym and listen to the most inspiring podcast that you can ever find.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sebastian. We would love to continue this. We'll have to get you back on another time and either continue this conversation or pick your brain about some other stuff, because we hear that you are knowledgeable on everything from mental health to quantum physics, and maybe you can teach us a lot more.
And druids and shamans, I had a very vibrant journey.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for joining us. Thank you guys for tuning in today to the episode of of today's episode of the FLC Hangout. We hope you guys found our discussion informative and engaging. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to our channel and leaving us a comment. Be sure to comment your thoughts and suggestions for future topics. We value your feedback and we would love to hear from you. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, the share, and the notifications of this video, and share it with your friends and family, everybody that might find it helpful. We want to be sure to get it out to as many people as possible so we can help them reach their freedom lifestyle and better health and mental health as well. So we'll be back next Sunday with another episode. So stay tuned and keep learning. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.